Lesson 11. Why do you like history? Well, of course, yes, because it's helped me open my mind to me have a knowledge about the history, and history, tell me the past, the story, the events, from a long time ago of my country, and the future, it depends on the past and the present. So history helped me to understand and to learn everything in the past. Two, do you think it's important to study history? Of course, well, history is very essential because my country has been managed. We had to fight for our freedom. Yeah, so history helped me to understand the part of Vietnam. We so glory and we sacrifice a lot of things, blood and the people. Yeah, and now history make my life happy. History bring me alive, live in a free, independent and happy country. Yeah, so I think we had not today if we don't have the history in the past. Yeah. Where do you study history? Well, as a student, I study history in a school. In primary school. Yeah, when we were child, we have to learning history because history is an important thing, right? Well, and I also study history from the book, from the movie, from the story of my grandfather told me. Yeah. How did you learn about history when you were a child? When I was a child, I had a history class at school, but it's so boring and it don't make me interesting in. But when I come home, my grandfather always tell me the story about the part of Vietnam, the history of Vietnam. Yes, he also, although he not a teacher, but the story the story of his he told the story very attractive. Yeah, very interesting. It's make me it's make me feel it's make me like it. Yeah, and I think I like the history because my grandfather told me a lot of story, very useful and very benefit for me, and I think that is why I love history so much. Yeah. 5. Do you like history when you were a child? Yeah. Well, when I was young, I love history so much. Yeah. Because my grandfather, yeah, that I mentioned about, he told me a lot of story. I am fascinated by his story. Yeah. So I think his story is very useful for me because his story make me understand the part of Vietnam. So I think everyone should study history. 6. Have you ever watched history film? Yes. Of course, I have watched a lot of history movie. Because it makes history very interesting, very alive, and then it make you fascinated than a lot of book to read book a lot of word. It make you feel boring ju- because in book it's just a word. Yeah, so it's not fascinating people to read, to study history. So history things make the part of Vietnam very alive. Yeah. 7. Do you like TV program about history? Yes, I very enjoy TV program about history. I see a lot of video on YouTube or on the Facebook or in the internet. Yeah, it's that's I mentioned about is make history become alive and less boring. Yeah. It When was the last time you read about history? I think it's a long time. I think I read the book 1 year ago. Yeah, the book is about explore the mystery of Grey because I think Grey is a British country, so I want to learn about Grey. So I think started I need to I need to learn about the culture, the history of Grey of the country I love. Yeah. I think I keen on story of the world. Yeah, because I like it's because it's have me more knowledge. If maybe in the future when I go to another country, I can have the history about the country. So it helped me have a lot of knowledge. Yeah.